to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, my friend, Lauri Perdue, National Workforce Director of the University of Phoenix, and my fellow trustee at the LVGEA. Lauri, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaime. I know this was a long time to plan. We finally made it happen.
Yeah, we've had a couple of attempts at this, and here we are finally. So thank you for making the time. 25 years in higher education. I know it's a passion of yours. You just got a promotion from Campus and Academic Director here in Las Vegas to National Workforce Director. We're going to talk about that in a little more. But first, we want to hear about your professional journey. So where were you born? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to high school, college? And how did you end up at the University of Phoenix, and more importantly, here in Las Vegas?
Okay, this is a fun story. So I was born in Michigan. My parents decided they hated snow. They went west, and I ended up in Arizona. And I lived in Arizona from the time I was 3 until I was 13. And I had a pretty even childhood, right? Went to the same school. I mean, we had our ups and downs as a family like everybody else. And all of a sudden, I was just about to start my sophomore year of high school. And my dad came home and said we were moving. And I went, oh no, what do? I have all these friends. Where are we going to go? And then he said Las Vegas. And the first thing I thought is I'm going to be living at the Circus. And I had never been anywhere in Las Vegas other than the Circus.
Yeah.
So I was petrified to move here. But moved here in 1987 as a sophomore. I went to Bonanza High School. Wow. And it was tough to be the new kid the first time after so many years of having the same friends and never really having to learn how to make friends. That was the greatest thing when I tell young people who have to move or I meet them through other ways that they're like, man, we're moving or I moved. I'm like, the greatest thing that came out of that experience for me was I had to learn how to make friends and I had to learn how to choose friends. And I ended up my senior year, we decided to move again. So I was equally as excited the second time. And we went to Colorado for 6 months. And then we ended up coming back. So I finished my senior year at Bonanza, thankfully. Wow. And I went to college in Reno. I went to UNR, go Wolfpack. Mm-hmm. Greatest 4 years of my life. Yeah. And but I wasn't a great college student. Not in that I got decent grades, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I didn't have a clear path, and there's one thing that stands out to me, and it was time. Like, I kept looking at college like, I just want to get done. I was so motivated to get done, I took the path of least resistance, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies with a minor of youth at risk, and I worked in the juvenile probation system in Reno for a little while. Wow. Very eye-opening. And then graduated college. I went to Buffalo, New York for a few years. My college boyfriend and I got married. He played football, and we had a great experience. And I taught Head Start. So I taught Head Start in Reno. That was my first job. And then I transferred to Buffalo, and it was actually in a town called North Tonawanda. And if you know anything about Head Start, it's a federally funded preschool program. I didn't make a lot of money, but I had the greatest fulfillment that I never even knew I had that in me. Like, I didn't know how much that meant to me as a person. So I did that for 4 years, and then my parents said they weren't going to pay for my car insurance anymore, and I had to get a job that paid a little more. And we moved back to Las Vegas. My husband at the time had a career-ending injury from football, and I said, well, I've got my college degree, now what am I going to do? We're going to be in Vegas. We didn't know what was happening with his football career. So I went to Eastridge Temp Services, and I met a fabulous woman. I'll never forget her name, Lauri, because she created this amazing opportunity for me at the University of Phoenix. And I walked in there in 1997 as a temp, and my job was to do data entry. And I did data entry in the back of the office for 2 weeks. I couldn't wait to leave. And I was like, this is so boring. And then they told me they were going to keep me indefinitely. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? And thankfully, they moved me to the front desk. And that's where I really learned what happened at the University of Phoenix. I met instructors, I met prospective students, I met current students. And that's when I was like, oh, this is what this is all about. I had no idea what it was. I ended up staying there. They hired me on full time after about 6 months. I started as an academic counselor. I quickly realized those people over in the enrollment department were more my jam, and moved over to enrollment. And I was an enrollment counselor for a year and a half, became a manager, then a director. I was with the University of Phoenix for 11 years. We went from 200 students, and when I left, we had almost 4,000. Wow. So it was an amazing, organizational development time for a new product, a new way to go to college, and in a city that really, really thrives on that kind of, diverse opportunity. So spent 11 and a half years at University of Phoenix. It was very hard to leave, but I got a job I couldn't pass up, and I went to work for the Art Institute. And that was a more traditional kids right out of high school, a little bit of both. About 60% of them were right out of high school. The other 40% were re-careering young adults or adults. And it was commercial arts. So it was graphic design and culinary and game art and design, interior design. Such a cool, unique industries. And what I learned there, the greatest gift I could give parents and spouses was the education that, yes, your student has an amazing talent. That is why they want to do this. And yes, they can get a job. Because you hear the term starving artist all the time, right? And that is not what we wanted at the Art Institute. We wanted to make sure that when they came in, they knew they had a pathway to a career. And in our city, all of those creative professions were so important. Yeah. So that was a great experience. And then I was there for 10 years, and fast forward, I came back to the university. Wow. Truth be told, I was always looking backwards, wondering why I left. I love University of Phoenix. I grew up as a professional there, and I love what we do there. So I was very honored to come back. And so I came back as the campus director for Las Vegas. We have recently, as an organization, made a decision to sunset our campuses, our physical locations, because after COVID, truth be told, nobody wants to go anywhere in the evening. So online really became the modality of choice. So we just graduated our final student in July. It was amazing. He graduated from college and the Henderson Police Academy in the same week. And so then I got promoted, and I'm now the National Workforce Director. So when I look at my career, I have taken a lot of turns that I didn't know I would take, but it always works out. You end up right where you're supposed to be. Yeah,
that's a tremendous journey. I have two follow-up questions. Again, I want to know more specifically about the position, but and then we also want to hit back on I want you to summarize the mission of the University of Phoenix. But before that, tell me a little bit more when you, before you moved to Vegas and when you visited and you had these memories of Circus, did you stay in the RV park of Circus or in the hotel, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both, yes. So we had an RV, and that was a thing our family did. There's 4 kids in my family, and so the RV was definitely one of the opportunities that we had. So the RV was often filled with, big stuffed animals on the way back to Phoenix. But I also stayed in the hotel when we were real lucky. That was if we had a good summer. But yeah, that's all I knew. And I don't even remember anything beyond Circus. I don't remember anything about Las Vegas beyond that, other than going over the dam and hanging out at the Circus.
Yeah, so many families have those memories. I spent 20 years at MGM, and that property was one of the ones that always stood out as different, because when I would go there in the 90s or the early 2000s, as you said, it was a different clientele. It was lots of families. And we would walk that RV park because, again, they needed gas and water and all these things, electricity and that. And we would meet some of the families, and it would be so cool to see the young families. I can picture yours. They were running around the RV park, and they come from neighboring states. And so as you were telling your story, I could just see it in my mind. So thanks for sharing that with us. So tell us about University of Phoenix. You touched on it a little bit, but how would you tell our listeners, our viewers, what makes University of Phoenix different than the other post-secondary options? And who is your target clientele, especially now under the new format?
Yes. So the University of Phoenix is a unique private institution. Unique being that it's geared for working adults. So they take a unique concept on completing your degree and even the cadence at which you take classes. So they built a model years and years ago in the 70s, and it was actually started in Berkeley by John Sperling, who was our founder, because he saw a need for police officers who needed to have their degree in order to promote within the police department. So he created this model for the police department, essentially, and ran it out of hotels, anywhere that he could run it. And that's where the model was born, for working adults who could not attend class like a traditional college student, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 10 or 10 to 11. And so he created a model that you took one course at a time for 5 or 6 weeks, depending if it's a bachelor's or a master's degree. And you take, take one course after another, but you still get done within the same amount of time, if not sooner, than you would in a traditional program. And we really work to access or provide access to underserved populations. We get a lot of re-careering adults. So adults who, maybe they started a family early, maybe college wasn't important to them, maybe their family didn't support it, and now they're in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, and they say, you know what, now's my time. And the classroom experience is geared toward people who have work experience. So when we sit in a classroom, virtually now, you're talking about how you would utilize the principle or the theory in your work environment. And so it's a little more hands-on, a little more practical experience. And you're also in a classroom with other working adults. So you get to, brainstorm and practice these theories with other people who have the same experiences.
Yeah, you really painted a good picture there, and I'm reminded of that commercial. I think it's the most iconic University of Phoenix commercial. There's been a lot, but the young woman who gets displaced because, her job in assembly gets automated, and it's an animation, and she is the last person as the robots come in. But then she goes home, and her kids inspire her, right? She's got to retool, as you said, reskill, and she goes and learns IT, right? And that's a great commercial, and it talks about what you said, the retooling of the adult workforce. Sometimes, in that case, it was forced, that example, but sometimes also families evolve, right? They need a different schedule, or they need a different earning scenario, and so you painted a really good picture. And so within that mission of the University of Phoenix, and you talked about how it's evolving to purely online now, tell us more about the National Workforce Director role. Will that take you to different places now? Will you have to spend time elsewhere?
Right now, no. So thankfully, I get to stay in Nevada because that's very important to me. I love Nevada. I'm here for the long haul. But the National Workforce Director role is a piece of a new transition that the university is going through right now. We've spent about the last year and a half with strategy partners and really diving deep into how do we look at higher education today. It's different. And even post-COVID, it's different. And what we have developed is a theory that we are going to become the career-centric university. So our job now is to rethink, what is the student's experience in higher ed? What are our employers looking for a student to be work ready through higher education? And how do we meet the needs of workforce on a national level with the University of Phoenix and what we have to offer? And we've been great at delivery. We've been great at access to, a diverse group and population. We have been a great provider of education for females, males, families, single parents. But what we haven't always been great at is how do we close that loop and help them take the next step of advancing their careers? So what we've done is we've spent the last year and a half going through every single class that the university offers in our over 100 programs, and we've created a skills taxonomy for our university. So every single class you take, you have a set of skills that you're learning in that course. You're assessed on that, and then when you're done, it goes into the Jaime Cruz skills inventory with the University of Phoenix. Those skills then translate to what experience you have on a resume. And what we're doing at the university is saying, don't wait until you get your degree to level up in your career. Don't wait until you get your degree to get that job that you're looking for. Let's look at what the skills that you need are. Let's build that skill inventory for you, and let's help you level up sooner. So my role is to build opportunities for our students through our employer partners. We have alliances with over 900 employers nationwide, and So my role is really to build opportunities through those employers for our students for job pathways.
Yeah.
It's also for our employer partners that we work so closely with to be a talent acquisition resource. So one of the second role that I play is being the boots on the ground for the technology team. So they're building some really neat, innovative tools that no other universities have right now. And I'm the person coming in saying, yes, I can use that with this company. Yes, the students can use that. So there's multiple technological tools that we're building right now for students to use to help them translate those skills that they're gaining into their next jobs and their future career jobs. So we are really changing how we operate in the higher ed space to be more career-centric and to help our students level up sooner and be a talent acquisition partner for big companies in the nation.
Yeah, I like a lot of the things that I'm hearing because, you're starting with the demand side. Employers are the ones that are now should be dictating to the talent supply line what they need in a career-ready person at multiple entry points. But then, as you said, also, we keep hearing that this economy and the future economy is going to be more skills-based than credential-based. And so I love what you're saying, level up sooner. It brings me to the next, topic I want to explore with you because, as you're well aware, last year, we followed up on the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy that the LVGA published almost 2-3 years ago now, where it called out 7 target sectors that were going to be our focus, if you will, to diversify our economy. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do hospitality anymore. We'll always be the hospitality capital of the world, or mining or other traditional industries in Nevada. But it did mean that we were going to put extra focus on growing that economy with healthcare, manufacturing, IT, all these different ones. And so last year in 2022, we did a heavy lift because, as you said, it starts with the employers. And so Workforce Connections, LVGA, the Chambers of Commerce, the higher ed partners, the K-12 system, we all partnered together to convene these employers from every one of those 7 sectors. And every sector had small, medium, and large employers. And we got them in a room and we said, we are the talent supply system. And a lot of times they come a little resistance because, we bureaucrats are not fast all the time. Government is not fast. And so they had been, I think, convened before and hadn't seen a lot of action. And so reluctant they came, but they were very happy because we used a national model that really put them not only at the center of the table physically, but we really spent 90% of the time listening to them, and then 10% of the time presenting to them opportunities for collective action, if you will, after we had heard their needs. And so the good news was not only across small, medium, and large businesses, they had common needs, but also across industries that were common needs. They really asked us to, as we all know, there's not a secret pool of employees out there, already highly skilled workers for employers, because otherwise they'd be hired. So we have to we're really working hard to find alternate labor pools, the reentry population that's leaving the penal system after paying their debt to society, the returning vets, people with disabilities. The immigrant pool is going down as well. Not only are we making less babies in this country for decades, which means we have less workforce, but we're importing less workers too. Every decade, less and less immigration. So it's all added up to be this perfect storm of our economy wants to grow, but we don't have the workers to help it. And so one of the biggest talent pipelines we have is, we happen to have the 5th largest school district in the nation, and we graduate close to 30,000 young adults every year. And we know that half of them, data shows us that half of them have a robust post-secondary plan. So they're going to go to a community college, a university like the University of Phoenix or others, an apprenticeship. They're going to go to vocational training. But there's 15,000 that don't have a robust plan, and we really got to do something about that. But the story doesn't end there, because of the 15,000 that embark on that post-secondary plan, only half are successful. That means that 7,500 join that group of 15,000 and become 22,500 that we as a region got to do a better job of what you were talking about. What University of Phoenix is trying to, I think, focus on the needs of today's economy, today's employer. So with that being said, you were there in some of those meetings and you saw how we really are now following up with their request, because we're connecting employers not just to those 18-year-olds who are graduating, but we're building processes in high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools with the data. We want young people to know about these occupations, careers, industries, skill sets, and talk to them about their families. We want their families to converse about that as well. So we have materials that we're distributing. But tell us, I would love to hear from you, in your opinion, why is it important? Because this is really what we've doubled down on with the LVGEA. Why is it important for our efforts, our investments as a talent pipeline, whether it be in the K through 12 or after, that it be employer-led? Because that, again, is what we're trying to do now. Why is that important to you?
It's important because both things have to drive each other. So in order to grow talent in Southern Nevada, in these industries that we need talent so badly, we have to have the employer growth at the same time. Like, these two things need to grow parallel. If they don't, and one outpaces the other, let's pretend our workforce outpaces the opportunities, where's the workforce going to go? Outside of Nevada. And typically we lose them forever. So in order for us to really grow a robust workforce and economic development, a diverse economic industry here, we really need to invest in the workforce development at the same time that we're investing in economic development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, this is why some of the work that we get to do together on the LVGEA, and as our current vice chair of the LVGEA, one of your tasks that you have had is rolling out something pretty new that, again, has to do with all of this by popular demand. And I think I'm grateful through consensus, we are, as a region, for the first time, really having these tough conversations that not every kid should go to, a 4-year school. There's other options for skilling, as you said, that are different, because the labor market is different. The labor market doesn't require everybody to be skilled the same way. And so since we're doing that, again, you are forming the Talent Pipeline Council.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about, again, why it's being formed, what is the council, and what you see the vision of that council doing over the next few months and years.
It's an innovative idea, but at the same time, it makes absolute sense. If the LVGEA, so the LVGEA is built up of these industry leaders in our city. They are dynamic, they are passionate about Nevada economic development and the community itself. And who better than to convene and bring them together to collaborate to make an impact in our community? There is no better pool of people than the LVGEA board. And when I was preparing for this, I was thinking, why is it through the LVGEA? In the past, 20 some years ago, the Commission on Post-Secondary Ed used to host a monthly consortium for all the higher education institutions in the Valley. And we would get there, and all we did was take our turn to speak and say what we were doing individually as an institution. There wasn't collaboration, there wasn't a collective goal. And the LVGEA brings everybody to the table, all the stakeholders, and we can really rally around the collective goal of diversifying the economy. But for the Talent Pipeline Council, our goal is to build a robust workforce to be able to meet the needs of that economy. And when we look at the players that came together, we had a few pre-meetings before we built out the whole attendee pool. And we brought together Dr. Pollard, Dr. Whitfield, Dr. Zaragoza, myself, and I forget, there was one other person there. Pollard, Zaragoza. Oh, of course, Tina, and the LVGEA. And it was very hard to narrow the scope because we all want to fix all the problems of education in Nevada. Yep. We can't do that. We really have to align the efforts of the Talent Pipeline Council with the mission of LVGEA. So those early meetings, that's where we, got to voice our opinions. We got to, put all of our wishes on the wall and start crossing things off that didn't meet the mission. And but in that, we will be able to make a great impact on our workforce development in the community and align our efforts with things like Workforce Connections are doing, the CTE schools are doing, the charter schools are doing. So that group is going to be the convener, and they will create opportunities for us to advance the workforce in Southern Nevada.
That's awesome. So I know you've mentioned Dr. Pollard, Dr. Zaragoza. I'm sure Dr. Whitfield from UNLV is going to play a role.
Yep.
And we have other members there at the LVGA that represent, of course, University of Phoenix, Toro University, right?
Yep.
And what am I forgetting? WGU?
Yep.
Okay.
Toro, WGU. I mean, and here is something that through my 25 years in Southern Nevada and higher ed, there are so many other players in the market that never get a voice, and people don't even know they exist. There's a school in the Northwest called Northwest Career College. It is amazing place. Their culture is amazing. Their student service is amazing. Nobody knows they exist. We should be utilizing them in our workforce development. The aviation school, Aviation Institute of Maintenance, they have a dynamic program, and they are bringing in industry partners every week, and they are dying for workforce. Yep. And nobody knows about it. And I had a unique opportunity when I was at the Art Institute, with a lot of our students being right out of high school. I would sit down, or my teams would sit down with their families. And you learned very quickly how uneducated our adult families and parents are on how to send their kids to college. Yep. And it isn't uneducated in the traditional book sense, right? It's just they live in fear of, can my kid get in? Can I pay for it? Mm-hmm. How do I even navigate this? I never did it myself. Mm-hmm. You know, less than 26% of our population has a bachelor's degree. So how are we expecting our parents to create a pathway for the next steps for their kids if they didn't know how to do it themselves?
That's right.
And that's where a lot of our collaborative efforts with Dr. Jara, the charter school leadership, your group will come into play as we build these pipelines and pathways for the industry and for workforce development through our youth.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it because, as you said, there's multiple examples of what should happen after an 18-year-old, graduates high school. But that's the time to tell them about it, you or her, not at 18 when they walk off the stage, right, and now what, but really build that in that 12, 13-year section of the pipeline. We always forget about it. I think we think, education starts after that. Higher education does, but the foundation is those 13 years where we have a captive audience, if you will, and we have to make sure that we're doing a better job to embedding the needs of our business and our industry here in Southern Nevada. So, and like you said, at CCSD, not a lot of people, it's funny how the news, what's sexy in the news, it's usually the negative stuff and the yelling and the screaming of things, but there is pockets of excellence in our system here. Mm-hmm. Last year, we had the #1 magnet school in the nation at SECTA, which is another one of those schools like the one you mentioned. But as a whole, our CTE or CTA schools were top 10 in the nation. There's a lot of choices here too between charters, and so there's plenty of choice, and which should be the reason why, again, I think now the LVGA is making sure to share that with employers to say, we want you to know that, yes, while we have opportunity for improvement in certain things, and we're working on it through the industry sector partnerships and other improvements, we also want to highlight this. And so I'm glad that this council is up and running, that you're heading it, and that hopefully we're going to make a difference in how we recruit our next employers here to our valley.
And Jaime, can I address something on that? Just a few things that I want to share, a few goals of the Talent Pipeline Council with regards to what you just said. Tina Quigley and I, as we were building the foundation of what the Talent Pipeline Council was going to be, one of the things that we had to understand was, what does the ranking mean? What does our school district and education system really look like? So we did meetings with the strategy office for the school district, with the charter school groups, with a few consultants and analysts, and really gathered a robust amount of information to help us understand, why do we rank low? In that ranking, what does that really mean? Like, let's peel the pieces of the layers of the onion back to really see where we are. And one of the goals of the Talent Pipeline Council is to, #1, create an inventory of training, higher ed, next step programs for talent, whether it be re-careering adults or kids right out of high school. Mm-hmm. So nowhere in our state right now do we have an inventory of all of those things. So that's #1. #2 is to create a business case document per se for all of the emerging positions that will be coming through our economic development efforts. So all the industry that we need workforce for, we want to be able to have the municipalities or the business development team at LVGEA be able to go to the filing cabinet, pull out cybersecurity training business case. What does that look like? Who are the partners in town who can train the workforce? Where is workforce currently coming from? What do graduation rates look like? Where can we push a button for certificates that we might need? So we want them to have the data and the resources at their fingertips for all those emerging industries. The third thing is we want to educate the community, not just the LVGEA, not just the education partners and training partners in the Valley, but the greater Valley. So through the LVGEA, we want to host an insight event that is dedicated to education and workforce development in our city. Because to your point, in the news, we often see we stink at education, right? And to me, that hits me really hard. I have a lot of fabulous teacher friends, administrator friends, and children, and myself who went through the Clark County School District. We don't suck, okay? Our teachers are not bad. Our students they go to school thinking, well, we're the worst. We need to counteract that message and unpack that so we really understand where the high points of our education system are. And there's one stat in that ranking, or one element. It's called the chance for success. And it looks at a student's ability to be successful over their lifetime of their career. So based on, their family's education level, their economic level, the education that they get, like what does the trajectory look like for them? The only way to impact that is through our community and our partners. So when we look at that ranking, if a third of it is in that chance for success, we can absolutely, as a community and a group of leaders, impact that piece for the greater good. So that's some premise of what the talent pipeline wants to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, really looking forward to the impact of that council. But enough about work. We want to know a little bit more about Lauri on the off days. Does she take time off? What do you do? So two questions. What do you do in your time off? And what does the perfect day of relaxation look like for Lauri?
Okay. So I love to take time off, right? But in order for me to really take time off, I have to leave here. Like I have to leave my house. And if I want to decompress, it's got to be outside of my world because I have really integrated myself into our community. There's a few things I do beyond work in LVGEA. I have 5 kids. 4 of them are in their 20s. One of them is 11. I have a husband who's a firefighter. He recently retired. But I did Leadership Las Vegas in 2022. And through that, I promised myself I would come up with something out of that experience to create an impact in our community. So I went back to my roots of young children, and I joined Serving Our Kids. We're a nonprofit that addresses food insecurity for K through 8 in the city. And we serve right now about 3,800 kids a week on average at over 104 schools. Wow. And we have an army of volunteers that help us. But what it addresses is CCSD is one of the most food insecure school districts in the nation. And Nevada as a state has the largest food insecurity of the United States. Wow. And there's about 80,000 kids who are food insecure in our school district. And so we have a lot of work to do if we're only serving approximately 4,000. We got a lot of work to do on that. But they are primarily relying on school meals for food. And without our meal bag, they'd often go hungry on the weekends. So I work very closely. I'm the chair of the board for Serving Our Kids, but we're not a normal board. We don't show up for a monthly meeting. We are digging in, tennis shoes and sleeves rolled up, out in the community, delivering bags. My first experience with Serving Our Kids is while I was in leadership, I said, hey, give me 2 schools, I'll deliver bags. So every Wednesday on my lunch break, I took my little car and I would fill it up with 175 meal bags, and I would go deliver to 2 schools. And I learned from the inside out, like what this program really means. So that is my passion project that takes up a lot of my free time. But it's well worth it. And we've had a year of transition. We have a phenomenal founder who was really running operations, but it grew beyond his capacity. And he's 71 years old, and he deserves to retire. And he's done a lot of good work. He's getting into heaven. That's already been established. So we have regrouped, and we're trying to be more efficient, more effective, and grow awareness in the community. So that takes up a lot of my free time. I also sit on the board of Examiners for Marriage and Family Therapists. I have a deep University of Phoenix line of therapists in this city. And so I work with that group. But so if there is downtime, which I do try to make for my family, we play pickleball. I love wine. Some people golf, I drink wine. We go to the lake when there isn't a hurricane. But I love to get out of here. Like, as much as I love Nevada, I love to get out of here. So next weekend we're going to Ely, and we're going to take my son to the caves and go on the train and just explore. Like, I don't care what we do. I can have fun anywhere.
That's very nice. I love it. And so for the young viewers out there who maybe they're a young girl, maybe they're a young boy, but they say, I want to be like Lauri Perdue when I grow up. I want to be not only an influential member of the community, heading up a higher institution of learning where people go to gain the skills they need to pay the bills, but also, as you just said, impacting, giving back to the community, in addition to mothering your family, which is a full-time job. So what advice would you have for a young person who wants to have the type of fulfilling impact that you have here in our community when they grow up?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a great college student in that I didn't feel prepared to go to college. Like, I went because it was going to be fun and it was the next step and it was what you're supposed to do. And I had this limiting mindset of time. Like, I just wanted to be done. I was so done with being in school. I just wanted to get to life. And that limiting mindset cost me a few things. Like, there's a few things that I think back, if I could, I'm going to be 50 this year, and I think back and go, man, if I'd have done it different, I'd have been a lawyer. Like, there's just a few things that I'm like, man, I would have done that. And I remember being a young woman going, oh, but that's like another 8 years of school or another XYZ amount of time. So I would say, you don't let time and the investment of time into your career be a limiting factor. I would also say you're not supposed to know exactly what you want to do when you grow up. Sometimes you figure it out along the way. And I would also say find people when you are 16, 17, start looking around. Like, what do your parents do for a living? What do their friends do for a living? What do you see, in social media that looks appealing to you? And dig in and do some investigating. Like, what does that look like? Talk to somebody about it. I really, truly didn't understand how businesses worked until I went to University of Phoenix to get my master's degree. And I sat in a room with 16 other students who were working adults. And I remember one of them worked at Sierra Health, I think was the name of it back in the day. And they explained to me, oh yeah, we have like an operations department and we have an HR department and we have a sales department. Like, I didn't even understand the structure of business until I talked to other working adults. And that experience was so valuable for me, in a classroom when I was 23, 24 years old, and I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do with my life. I was working at UOP. And I loved it, and it was really exciting, but I had to become a lifelong learner to really understand where I wanted to end up. So I would say to a young person, I think we also put a lot of pressure on them to grow up too fast. Like, I love the dual programs, the dual enrollment. One of my daughters did dual enrollment. It was a perfect opportunity for her, but I don't think it's for everybody. Enjoy being a kid, but have a pathway after high school. Educate your parents. And the other thing I would say is don't work too hard, because there are times, one of the greatest learning lessons I had, I was working at the Art Institute and we were a very boots on the ground organization. Like, it was very important to be there a long time, long hours. And there was a meeting one day and I said, oh, I got to go to this meeting, but we had planned a family vacation. And I'm like, well, you guys go ahead. I'll meet you 2 days later or a day later. And I remember I was driving my car. In front of me was my husband with our big family mobile with 6 bikes on the back. and I turned right on Green Valley Parkway, and they went to the St. Rose to California. And I looked at myself at that moment. I'm like, what am I doing? So there are so many opportunities to be successful with balance. And that is something, as you say, the Lauri Perdue today, who has involved myself in a lot, have balance.
Awesome. That's great advice. Well, Lauri, thank you for being here with us today. I know it took us a couple of times to make it happen, but I'm glad we did. I feel it was way worth it. I look forward to continuing to work with you at the LVGA, helping align workforce development investments here in our region to the economic development needs of our region.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and you're going to be a big part of that. Yeah. So get ready for a lot of Lauri Perdue time.
All right. You got it, Lauri. I enjoy it. Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you at another episode. Until then, stay safe. Okay, Lauri, well, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment, Call Against the Wall.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, the first segment is called Your Favorites. I'm going to give you categories. You're going to give me your favorite one in that category. What's your favorite food?
Cheese, anything with cheese.
Your favorite meal that you cook?
Ooh, guacamole.
The favorite meal that your husband cooks?
Chicken cordon bleu.
Yeah, your favorite wine for dinner?
Sauvignon Blanc.
Nice. Your favorite musical group or artist?
Ooh, that one's hard.
You can give us two if you want.
Ooh.
Or more.
I'm going to go with Journey and Garth Brooks.
Oh, good ones. Your favorite movie?
Ooh.
Again, you can give us several if you want.
Favorite movie?
Or maybe one that you've seen recently.
I got to go with my childhood, like Goonies and Weird Science. Those
Classics.
are probably my favorites. Yeah.
Very good. Your favorite book?
The 5 Love Languages.
All right. I love that. Your favorite sports team?
That's a hard one, too, for me. I got to go Chicago Cubs. I got to go to the roots.
What about your favorite Vegas sports team?
Ooh, favorite Vegas sports team. I got to go with the Golden Knights.
Stanley
Stanley
Cup winning
Pick
team,
the winner.
Right? Very good. You made it through the first segment. The second one is called Tough Choices. Are you ready?
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 choices. You have to pick one. Would you rather vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
When you're going on vacation, would you rather drive to that spot or fly there?
Fly.
And when you get there, would you rather stay in a nice hotel or an Airbnb?
Ooh. I'm going to go hotel.
Okay. When you retire, can you envision yourself retiring on a ranch or would you retire in the city?
Ooh, we have a whole retirement plan. Both.
Both. Very good. And I know this is going to be very difficult because it depends on the circumstances and what you're eating. But if you had to choose between red wine or white wine, it would be?
Oh, white all day long.
Oh, okay. Sauvignon
Easy.
Blanc all the way.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Now, day by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
Day by the ocean.
Now, this is where it gets hard.
Okay.
Actions or words?
Ooh. Actions.
Justice or grace?
Grace.
Very good. You made it through the second segment. The third one, last one, is called Finish the Sentence. I'm going to give you about 95% of a sentence. You're going to finish it for me. You ready?
All right. Yep.
If Lauri could visit any place in the world, it would be?
Ooh. Anywhere in the world. Italy.
The best part of living in Southern Nevada is?
The ability to do everything.
Lauri's favorite thing about her job at University of Phoenix is?
Changing lives.
If Lauri could travel back in time, she would travel to?
I would like to meet Nancy Reagan. Like if
nice.
I would go back to when she was accessible.
Very cool. And 3 words that describe Lauri are?
Fun, energetic, powerful.
I couldn't agree more. And doing the WC podcast here with us today was?
A blast.
Awesome. Well, Lauri, thank you for staying over doing this segment.